What's cracking? Today I'm back working on the Suburban. As you can see, I got it lifted up in the place that I want it. It's a good level. It's about from the tire to the fender is 23 3/4. I had it 20. It's 22 3/4. I had it 23 3/4. Dropped it down an inch because I figure I can trim this right here and get plenty of. This is plenty of space. I said it's got about 10 inches of travel. After the compression, it's going to have about 7. So now what I want to do is 3D scan this right here, and then possibly 3D scan this and the shock tower, and then suck it into Fusion 360, and then I can make an accurate mount for this. So I've got this line right here. I'm going to stick something on here so I know where center's at and know where I have to work around, and then kind of do the same thing down there. What I'm going to do is just lightly spray paint this gray so that the 3D scanner will pick up on it, and then get the design in it and maybe make some mounts and go from there. Alright, so I don't know if you guys can see it too well, but here's a scanner that I got. Here's a scanner software. It's kind of hard for me to show you, but when we get close here, you can see it represented down here on the screen. Alright, so I scanned that top part there. It's really hard to film and do it at the same time. You can't really notice it. But this is the scan data that I got here. I don't know how well you can see that, but really, really good scan data. And that's not even the finalized mesh. So really all I needed was like this part right here, and then this part right here. And it even has, like, you know, the side pieces. This right here, now I can make a plate for that, cut it out, weld it in there, which is awesome. It even picked up some of the brake hoses, and this is just a real quick scan too. So now what I want to do is do a separate scan down there and kind of see how that comes out. Alright, so at first I had scanned just this part and that part separate, the axle, and then I thought about it and I stuck this piece of styrofoam in there so I could maybe try to get the scan to scan all the way down and get all of it together as one piece in the scan, and it actually worked out pretty good. I got all the data that I need. I don't know how good that comes up on camera there, but so I got all the mounts there, the frame. Then I can also come in here and make this little triangle piece right here to fill this in, and then it goes all the way down here to the axle. So I got all the information I need on the axle. Got that little mounting spot right there. You guys can see that. And that's a pretty good scanner. I'd used another scanner before getting this one, and it kind of sucked. That Revo Pop 2, you couldn't do anything with that thing. So I ended up getting this Shining 3D by Einstar. This is a really good scanner. It wasn't much more. These like 800 bucks, 700 bucks now. But the level of scans you get is pretty crazy. I haven't been able to really utilize it until now. So this will really help me along. Alright, so you can see the results here of my scan. So this is the scan data right here. And you can see this is the frame right here. And then there's that piece that I wedged in there. So there's the frame, there's the piece I wedged in, there's the mounting surface down there on the axle. And then what I did was modeled up a shock, and then the plate to cover that, the bottom mounts and the top mounts. So you can see here, I'm actually gonna put a plate on the side there too to reinforce that. But so that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the lift. And then underneath here, I designed a little pocket to hold the spring. So it should sit in there like a cup. So now all I have to do is go over to the plasma table, start cutting those parts out. You can see here I've already started to line some of that up. I've cut some of these out right here. And then I got to cut them out and weld them up. Got my pieces cut. I'm about to load up this material. Got a brand new 4x8 sheet of 1/4 inch plate. All right, so I got my whole cut file in here, ready to cut the brackets for the other side. Getting ready to cut it out. If anyone's wondering, this is a custom built plasma table that I built myself. Took me a couple months, some research. So it's built, not bought. I built this myself. So let's get to cutting and see what happens. Cycle start. All right, so you can see here, got all the parts cut out. I was pulling the ones that tipped up out as they were coming out, so they didn't hit the plasma table, plasma torch. As you can see, it's nice and clean cuts. They come out perfect. Barely any dross on the back. I got it dialed in pretty good. You can see there's barely any dross on the back of there. So I'll get these all over to the bench, get them cleaned up, start welding it up. All right, so check it out. This is the whole assembly here. I'm gonna put a gusset plate right here to hold that more steady, but you know, that takes bigger bolts. But this is pretty much it right here. I'm actually gonna weld a thicker plate on the bottom of that. But you can see that's the pocket that is gonna get welded just like the factory one to the frame. So this looks just like that factory one that I cut out where it has the cup compressor, where it has that cup and then the spring sits up in there. That way it can't jiggle around. But I think that's gonna work good. So that's welded up. Like I said, I'm gonna weld some gusset plates in there. Weld this all the way out because it seems to fit pretty good. That's about it. Pretty much got the kit done. So this is the actual kit right here. Bottom mounts. This is what's actually gonna give me the lift, is this mount, and then how far down I place these pockets on the frame. And then I also, off of the old shocks that I pulled off, there was this piece right here with a hole in it. It's like a big grommet. So what I did was welded that on here so that when these go through these holes right here, no matter what, there's no way this is gonna come through. So that's pretty much it. These holes, I do them a little bit undersized, and I have to ream them out just a little bit with that Christmas tree bit right there. So I'll get all this set up in my drill press, knock those holes out, make them perfect. They should fit right in there. Let's get to it. Goes perfect hole. Did I have to do that? Probably not, but I want those bolts really tight in there so that there's no play with the shock. All right, now that I got the mounts done, holes drilled out, I'm gonna bring the forklift in here, lift it up to the height that I want it, the right height, and then I'm gonna start tacking everything in, kind of set it down, see if it sits under its own weight, see what it looks like. All right, so what I'm trying to do is level it out. So what I was doing was measuring from here to the fender and trying to make sure the front fender and the back fender have the same height, because I don't like seeing it, you know, with the fender off and the truck sitting weird. I wanted to sit level. So no matter what I did, I'm kind of coming with off numbers. And the reason is I put a level, I just kind of figured it out here. I put a level across this body line that's even across the truck, and it's perfectly even. But this fender seems to be down about 2 inches compared to that fender when the body line sits level, which I don't know if it's correct or not, but I would like that body line to sit level. So I guess the fenders are going to be a little bigger in the front than the back, and that's probably how it is stock, and I just didn't realize it. But if you see now, the body line looks like it sits pretty level. So that's what I'm going to go with. All right, so now that I've got everything level out there and I've got my 3D scan here, what I need to do is go through and just measure where everything sits, like from the corner of this to the corner of that. 0.389 of an inch, so 0.4 of an inch right there, from there to there is about where that sits. And it sits, I designed it to sit all the way across. Oh, maybe I didn't. So the front side, it sits flush. So I'll go flush, and then I'll go from here to about there, 0.39 of an inch, 0.4 of an inch, and then mount that there. And then I'll do the same thing over here with this mount. I'll just figure out where it's gonna sit, measure it all out, get it in there. So here I went over to my design and measured from this corner right here, that little point, over to where the box should start, and then I measured from right here to down here where the end goes. So now I put my level here, and I got this line exactly level. So this line should be exactly straight, which you can see it is from the bubble. But if I can get it over here in the right place. So it's right there. So now I should be able to mount this in the correct location to match up to that down there, according to the scan. All right, so it worked out pretty good. I moved the axle just a little bit forward, centered it back up to more like where I scanned it. It's just a little bit off. You can see my scan line right there, the line that's level. So I moved it maybe a quarter inch forward, and you can see I have that mount perfectly level. The shock now is perfectly level, and the mount platform where it's sitting is level. So everything's level all the way across now. So it should be good. Should be able to stick a shock in there, drop it down, get that preload on there, and see what happens. I'm gonna actually mount the other side first, and then come back and do that and see how it all sits. I got both sides tacked in there. Got that one on there, that one on there. Got everything level. This one's in there, got that plate filled in that gap there. That's level. So now what I'm gonna do is lift it, stick the springs on there, lower it back down and kind of see where it sits. I didn't want to tack it too hard just in case I got to move these mounts. So hopefully the spring tension will hold and not pop the tacks, but we'll see. So there it goes, it's got some weight on it. The back is kind of floating on the forklift there. Yep, it's got weight on it. Well, just caught that on camera. Tacks broke like I thought, but it's under its own weight. It's funny I caught that on camera. I put bigger tacks over here. It's under its own weight. Right where it's at's good. This is actually holding the truck up right now. I think that's a good spot. Both, before the tacks broke, both the fenders are in exactly the same height. The frame just looks different on both sides. The one over there curves up more than over here. It's kind of weird, throws me off a little bit. But now let me jack it back up, fix those tacks, and yeah, that's it. It's under its own weight. All right, so I got it under its own weight, fixed the tacks. It's riding in a great spot. I have to put a little bit of a shim underneath here just to get that nut up a little bit on there. But other than that, sitting under its own weight. So you see when I bounce it, see it barely moves. The only thing that's moving really is where there's no nut there, but you see the springs barely move there. I think that's perfect. I think that worked out good. When I first put it under its own weight and that tack popped, the axle rolled a little bit and shifted over that way a little bit. So I do got to move the axle back over before I make the trailing arms. But good progress for today. Got it under its own weight here. You can see here too when I bounce it. So I think these struts should work out good. Once I put a nut on there and a spacer on there, it'll also bring it up about a 1/4 inch, get it right to 23 inches. From here to here is 23 inches. And like I said, these bumpers are kind of bent from whoever owned it before me. I'm going to take these off, put new ones on, and they should sit straight. But I think that's pretty good, especially for a street truck. Like I said, I'm not going to go crazy and off-road this thing. It's just I'm just going to daily drive it. And I just wanted to see if I can do it. So these mounts here, I kept these on so I could see where they were gonna sit. And I think they're gonna work out great. I think what I'm gonna do is cut these off and move them back. Move the mounting points back a little bit so they're away from the spring. And then drop the rods down there, have mounts come off back here. And that should be good for these. So I'll be able to use the stock mounts. It's pretty good. I still gotta put that filler plate in there on both sides. And then clean all that up. But that's about it. It's pretty much what I did was designed it exactly like the stock struts were. So the pocket was up here. Now the pocket's down here. And I had these had the torsion bar, so it didn't have springs, but you know, there's mounts down there. And that's pretty much how it would be factory. And all I did was got my lift by moving this up and moving this mount down, and that's how I got the lift for the truck. So I like it. We'll see how it works out in the end. Now I got to do the rear. Once I get the rear in, then I'll start working on the trailing arms to lock all the axles in place, and I'll make sure that they're moved over and, you know, perfectly aligned before I do all that stuff front and back. I think these have to come out a little bit more. I had these perfectly lined up when I mounted everything to begin with, but like I said, when it rolled on me a little bit and that tack broke, it shifted a little bit. So the mounts are in the correct spacing for it when it is lined up. So that's about all the time I got for this one. I appreciate you guys watching. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know if I'm doing anything wrong. I'm not professional. This is my first time doing a custom lift like this and an axle swap. I've built chassis before. I put air ride on them, C-notched them. I've done trailing arms and stuff like that. So kind of know what I'm doing. We'll see how it works out. Thanks for watching.